Hello friends, this is Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper. Thank you for tuning into this video. Hello to my friends watching on my YouTube channel, which is Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. And hello also to my friends watching on my Facebook page, The Faithful Stamper. Today I have for you a super simple 2-strip panel card. It's a very basic design, and it's 2 strips of designer series paper, or really whatever paper you like, that make up the front panel on the front of the card. So quick and easy, great for any occasion, great for mass producing and using up your beautiful designer series paper. And incidentally, in June of 2023, we are having a 15% off sale on a majority of our designer series paper. So be sure to go to the website and check that out. You don't want to miss it. So I'm going to show you how to put this card together. The first thing you will need is a card base. The card base I am using today is Boho Blue. It's one of our new in colors. This one is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. You can use whichever style of card base you like, though. If you prefer the long skinny one, that will work as well. No specific one needed. So I'm just going to fold that in half on the score line, and that's ready to go. To this, I'm going to add a cardstock layer. This is 5 1/4 by 4. This is Copper Clay, another one of our new in colors. Now, you can go ahead and glue this on your card right now if you want. I'm going to wait first and attach my designer series paper just on the off chance that I make a mistake. That way I won't have to cut a new card base. I can just cut a new panel if I need to. So my designer series paper is 5 inches tall by 3 3/4 inches wide. This is from our Cheerful Daisies DSP. This is one of the papers on sale this month for 15% off. And you can see right here in the paper is where I pulled the colors for the card. I have the Boho Blue and I have the Copper Clay. All came from here. Now, if your paper is double-sided like this and you like both sides, you can use the 5 inches tall by 3 3/4 inches wide. If you happen to have paper that doesn't coordinate, or perhaps you have paper that's only one-sided, you'll just need 2 pieces, and I'll tell you how to cut that in a minute, because this is one simple cut of this panel is going to give us the 2 different pieces. So I'm going to bring my paper cutter over. And so I want the paper to fit on the front here. And I can already tell that is not cut correctly. So, yep. I had a couple pieces that I'm so used to cutting 5 1/4 by 4. That's exactly what I did. So 5 inches tall, 3 3/4 inches wide. And what I want to do is I want to cut 1 inch off. Now, normally it doesn't matter which side of the paper you cut 1 inch off. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a look at this and think, do I want this to be my large panel or this to be my large panel? And I think I want this to show. So I'm going to flip this around and cut 1 inch off this side. So basically just cut 1 inch somewhere off the panel, and then you'll be ready to go. Because what I will do is I will put this down on the card, flip this panel over, and there's my 2-strip panel technique. Now, I mentioned earlier, if you don't have a piece of designer series paper you can flip over, you'll want to just cut from 2 different pieces of coordinating paper. So you will have one that is 1 inch wide by 5 inches tall, and your second piece will be 5 inches tall by 2 3/4 inches wide, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over my Copper Clay panel, and this is going to have a pretty narrow border. I like to kind of get a feel usually for how I'm going to put this together before I start gluing. So I like that. I like the way it looks. So I'm going to put some glue here on this panel. No special glue required. If you like liquid glue, go ahead and use that. I like my tape runners, so I'm using my Stampin' Seal Plus today. So I like to make sure top and bottom have the same width border, and then mine's a little narrower on the side, and that's just to make sure that I have enough here to get this other panel on. So a little more glue here, I like to make sure my ends are going to stick. And I just do the same thing. I'm gonna turn it sideways so it's a little easier for me. Make sure that border on the sides, well, really it's the top and bottom here, match. And then that it's nice and straight. Okay, there's my 2-strip panel, ready to go. Now, I'm going to put this on the front of my card. I could, if I wanted to, pop this with dimensionals, but I'm deciding to leave this flat for now, for this card. So you can see really quickly how quickly this card goes together. Okay, so now I just need to finish the front, and this will be, and do a little stamping on the inside. So to finish the front, what I have is a scrap of copper clay and a scrap of basic white. And I'm going to use my double oval punch. This is a favorite of mine. I really use this a lot. Let's see here. So I'm going to cut out, I have to turn it sideways, a scalloped oval out of my copper clay cardstock. And then I'm going to break out my ink and my stamps. So the stamps that I am using, I have tried to misplace. Things are walking around in my studio today. I'm using the Cheerful Daisies for my sentiment, which is Oops a Daisy, so sorry. I wanted to add a couple of belated birthday cards to my stash. And then I'm using this little floral image as well. For the inside of my card, I'm using something fancy. And this sentiment here, this is one of my favorites. When I first saw this stamp set, this one jumped right out at me. I didn't forget your birthday. I'm just stretching out the celebration. I really like that for a belated card. So what I'm going to do is find my Stampin' Pierce mat. And I'm going to bring that over here because the stamps, the first couple stamps I'm using today are photopolymer. So they're clear, they don't have that cushion built in. So my inks match my cardstock, copper clay and boho blue. So with my copper clay, I'm going to stamp up my sentiment here. I'll punch that out in a moment, but while I have my stamps and my ink out, I'm going to go ahead and grab my envelope. And so to the envelope, I'm going to take my boho blue ink and my little floral accent stamp. I think this is my favorite accent stamp from this set. I've used it quite a bit. So there are my little floral accents. This will dry a little bit lighter. I know it looks a little bit dark, but actually here's a great comparison. Look how that's going to look when it dries. It really dries considerably, so, or lightens up considerably, I guess I should say. All right, now I'm going to take my sentiment stamp. This is red rubber, so I don't really need this mat anymore, but I'm going to leave it there just because. But you can see this one has the foam built in. So remember, just tap your stamps on your ink pad. Don't do CPR on them. They don't need chest compressions. Then you'll end up with extra ink on your cardstock, your stamps, your fingers, and probably a bunch of other places you don't really want it. All right, so there's my sentiment. And my copper clay ink can go to the side. And just briefly here, I'm gonna ink up that floral stamp and add my little accents. I love that I can rotate it so it fits nicely in the corners. Isn't that nice? Okay, so my envelope is done. The inside of my card is done. And I'm gonna grab my sentiment that I stamped a moment ago, put it in my punch here. This just about fits. If it was any bigger, it wouldn't have worked. So it was a perfect size for that double oval punch. A little bit of glue here on the back. Now this I'm going to put on the front of the card with dimensionals. I could use minis or full-size ones. We have both. One thing I like to do with this kind of card where there's designer series paper on the front is I like to take my sentiment and figure out where do I want to put it. I could put it over here if I liked, but I like to kind of bridge the gap here between the two panels. But maybe I like it there. I play around with it and see. I think I'm gonna put it right there towards the bottom. Oop. Sometimes I swear it takes me longer to place my sentiments and my dimensionals than to do anything else on the whole card. And that's okay. All right. So here we go. Put that at the bottom. Come to my stamped panel for my insert, which incidentally was just a 5 1/4 by 4 panel of basic white. A little adhesive on that. And into the card it goes. And then for one finishing touch, I'm going to break out some of our 2023 to 2025 in color dots. These have been a favorite embellishment in my crafting. It's got our 5 in colors. I'm going to use, I really hemmed and hawed between the boho blue and the copper clay. Couldn't decide which one I really wanted, but I'm gonna go with copper clay for these. Grab my take your pick tool, and let's see. I think I'm gonna put a large one there, and then, I'm telling you, it takes me the longest to put these embellishments on. I hem and haw, and then I fuss because I always put one in the wrong place and I'm aggravated with myself. And this one does not want to play nice. There we go. Let's see. I think like that. And there is my quick and easy 2-strip panel card. And you can see, goes together fast and is a beautiful use of that designer series paper. You can experiment with where you put your sentiments and your embellishments if you like. Ready to go. Now, as always, I have some suggestions for you, some more samples to show you, because I like to take these ideas and use them as a springboard. This isn't, you know, die hard, you've got to stick with this design or else. Experiment to your heart's content. Sometimes a basic idea like this can launch you into something really great, and so that's the fun of it. So here we go, some more samples for you. So I stuck with the Belated Daisy card for a little bit, but on this one, what I did was I used the panel of DSP, but here, instead of another piece of designer series paper, I embossed cardstock. This is Garden Green embossed with the Painted Texture embossing folder, which is one of my favorites. You can see I changed the shape of my sentiment piece, but I kept a lot of the other pieces the same. And then, just to show you the variety that you can have, here is a second card. While I was cutting, I had this strip of designer series paper left, and I thought, I've got to put that on a card. I just can't throw it away. It was lying here. It was just begging to be used. So I used that strip for the skinny one, and actually I changed up the dimension a little bit. This is 1 inch. I believe this was 1 1/4. And then I just trimmed this panel down a little bit to fit. And this is embossed as well with that Painted Texture embossing folder. Hopefully you can see that. And again, you can see, change your shape, use punches, use dies, whatever you like. So now I've got 4 belated birthday cards ready to stick in my stash just in case I miss a birthday or in case a friend misses a birthday and needs a quick card. You can use stamps and coordinating dies. Here is another fun one. This is a birthday card featuring our new Beautiful Balloons stamp set and the matching dies. So I used the designer series paper here, and then I die cut the balloon after I stamped it and added that to the front for a little something different, not necessarily a label, but still gets my point across. And then there's the inside of the card. And of course, the balloon to coordinate on the envelope. And you are also not tied to having the orientation be more vertical with this card. You can change it up. It's one of my favorite things to do. It doesn't always work with every design, but it did happen to work with this particular one. So here I used some of our new beautiful blue designer series paper. This is our Countryside Corners designer series paper. And I paired it with some new ribbon. Check this ribbon out. I fell in love with this. I was so excited. I won a spool of it as a prize, and I just had to use it on the card. It's beautiful woven, nice accent there. With our little bunny stamp, I had to give the bunny an eyeball, a little matte dot there. But how sweet is that card? Love it. And all I did was change the orientation and make sure I cut my paper accordingly. So this one ended up being 5 inches wide with the 2 3/4 of an inch tall. And then I had to make sure I cut this strip so the paper was running in the right direction. And you can mix it up. Well, here's a good example. I'm gonna pull these daisy ones back out for a minute. You can see you can switch up which side of the card you use the wide panel on and the small panel. Totally up to you. And again, you'll see that from the bunny card here to my last card, and I think this is my favorite. This Designer Series paper, this is our inked and tiled suite. This is becoming a fast favorite of mine. I've used it quite a few times. We have the yellows and the corals, but we also have a lot of blues in this pack of paper. And so I've really been going to it a lot. But one thing I thought was neat here was I used the punch pack for an accent. So here's the larger punch I was able to put my sentiment on. And then I used the coordinating punch. It's almost like X's and O's, so to speak, except it's a solid O. But look how cute this is when you put them together. Isn't that neat? I love it. And this was just kind of an idea that popped into my head. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to turn the card sideways? And then I wonder if I could do that. And it actually came out a little bit better than I thought. So I was excited about that. I put a little rhinestone in the center of the X just for a little accent. And then there's the inside of the card. So quick, simple, great way to use your Designer Series paper. Or if you don't have a lot of Designer Series paper, you could stamp your panel and put it on the card. And again, use that cardstock to emboss if you like, or put on a solid piece. Lots and lots of options for you. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this 2-strip panel technique card. Quick and simple. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not already subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd love for you to do that. It's again, Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. If you click the subscribe button, you'll be notified each time a video goes live there. Or you can hop on over to Facebook at The Faithful Stamper and find me there. I always share lots of ideas, and you'll also hear more about specials and things that Stampin' Up! Has to offer. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy crafting.